live, but I need to find my mic. Hello. All right, if you want to check the livestream.onedegreeoutside.com and just make sure that we are on, but we should be. So hello to those of you who are watching. So we're following the thunderstorms that are moving through the Boston metropolitan area right now. With an idea of what's happening, basically the center of the storm right now, and the worst of it, is just over Medford. You can see where that purple is over Arlington right now, coming over the Fresh Pond Parkway. That is continuing to move off to the east, so Medford's next. That's where we've got the likelihood of some hail. There's a severe thunderstorm warning just been issued by the National Weather Service for Malden, Revere, Lynn, the entire Boston metropolitan area now into a severe thunderstorm warning. Severe thunderstorm warning issued right now. We came up with the idea that a severe thunderstorm warning would likely be issued momentarily, and so now it has indeed been issued for the Boston metropolitan area. So what we're going to do is highlight for you what's going on, and maybe we could post that out on Facebook just to let folks know. They can go to livestream.onedegreeoutside.com to get the latest on what we're offering here. So folks, you're watching live radar, and what we'll do is take you in just a moment to bring you right to the radar full screen. Let me get myself off of the imagery, and there you go. So again, your severe thunderstorm warning on the storm moving into the east, but it's really a line of storms. It goes essentially from Woburn and Burlington all the way down through Newton in the Metro West, down through Framingham into Milford on the south side. The problem here and the concern is for isolated wind gusts that may be up to 60 miles per hour. 58 miles per hour is a cutoff to issue a severe thunderstorm warning. There's already a special marine warning that's out for Boston Harbor and for the marine interests that are out across the harbor and then running up through Cape Ann. That special marine warning was issued a short time ago, and that'll remain out until 2:15 this afternoon. But with regard to the severe thunderstorm warning, that's going to also be out until 2:15. Storm moving about 36 miles per hour. You can see your max hail size estimated to be less than 3/4 of an inch there right now, and I'll show you in a couple of moments. We'll use some of the radar tools. There's about a 50 to 60% chance that you've got severe sized hail that comes close to an inch in diameter that's coming out of this storm right now. The towns, Boston, Cambridge, Quincy, Lynn, Newton, you can see them listed all right there for you. Basically, to sum it all up, the Boston metropolitan area, the area that's under the gun. Of course, what we're talking about here are heavy downpours, and part of the concern with that does not play into the severe thunderstorm warning. But the concern becomes that it's slowing traffic to a crawl right now. When you get across, let's say, for example, I-95, particularly north of town, although now west of town, the Metro West is into that as well. The heavy downpours expanding down Route 9 and Route 20 all the way into Brookline, but really 93, you've got standing water about to develop on the road. That already is happening in the Mass Turnpike from Framingham to Natick into Newton. You're developing standing water on the roadway. That, of course, is causing some significant problems for us with regard to travel and slowing everybody down to a crawl there. What we can do with the radar is we can also swing things over to the velocity mode. This will show you where the strongest wind is located right now. I am going to go ahead and zoom the view out just a little bit more. And actually, one of the areas that we're watching closest is going to be, believe it or not, on the southern side of the storm. That's where we're getting signs that the winds may be strongest. I can actually probe that for you. It's the bottom number that you're looking at here, about 44 miles per hour on the maximum wind gust right now, between 40 and 44 miles per hour. So again, the concern that the Weather Service has in issuing this severe thunderstorm warning is that there may be a localized gust that goes to 60 miles per hour. Right now, a lot of the technology not quite indicating that you might be that high, but you do have to take into account also the potential of some downburst winds and some downdrafts that may be ongoing. So I'm going to bring up the downdraft gusts for you, give you a little bit better idea of how that lines up. And once again, we'll kind of probe into this. What this is doing is taking into account not just the wind that's inside the storm, but also the downward transport of that wind. So what are the chances that that wind will make it down to the ground, and how strong would it be? And again, you probe that area of 40 to 45 mile per hour storm wind, and you get a downburst estimate of about 43 miles per hour just outside of Framingham right now. We come down to the heart of the southern end of the storm. It's about 40. You say, well, what about if we go farther up? Actually, it increases a little bit more, because when you get into some of the real heavy rain in the hail shaft, this is where you have a better chance at carrying some of the wind down to the ground. So you notice about 45 miles per hour, 46 miles per hour around Woburn, Arlington, and Medford as the storm moves off to the east. So part of the concern here is that if the storm continues to strengthen, what you're going to end up with are at least small pockets where you're going to be talking about the potential of bringing down even stronger wind. At this point, we're seeing 3 areas that stand out as potential hail areas for you. One of those areas is going to be when you make your way across the Stoneham stretch. 93 is one of the spots now that we look at with the potential of a little bit of hail. Basically, wherever you're seeing that purple showing up is where the radar is picking up on what are either really large raindrops, which certainly that's a part of it, but the other part of this too is that you could be looking at ice inside the cloud. And that just came over Route 28 at Stoneham. Now coming into Melrose. Wakefield, you're just on the north side of this thing. Saugus, you're up next. I would suggest certainly with any of these thunderstorm warnings, you want to be sheltered indoors away from windows. The potential there, and the reason we say away from windows, is because if you do get some of those damaging wind bursts that happen in an isolated fashion and it should bring down a tree limb, something along those lines, you'd be talking about the potential of damage being done, the window being shattered if you were nearby it watching the weather that's outside. I think the other part of this too, though, is the fact that we're talking about a lightning threat, and I would ask you to remember when thunder roars, go indoors, right? If you can hear the thunder, then lightning is close enough to be a threat. There is no warning for lightning. In this case, your phones have been going off because you've been dealing with the severe thunderstorm warnings been issued for the potential of strong wind and hail. But you could be outside of this warning, and if you have the thunder, then you know you've got lightning close enough to be a threat for you. Medford, there's the hail core right now. And again, I'd say at this point, the threat for downburst winds will be maximized underneath that hail core. So Malden and Everett, you're in the path of that. It's just crossing 93 right now. And as I mentioned earlier, the rain is coming down in torrents, which is certainly resulting in some kind of crawling traffic in this particular area. One of the things that I can actually do for you here, let me see if I can swing over to what's going on with our current precipitation rate estimate. See if I can bring that up on the screen. It may take just a moment to load, but what I'd like to do ideally is be able to show you what we're looking at with the precipitation estimate and how strong that precipitation is coming down. Let me see if I swing off the radar for you, if I get a little bit better idea for the precipitation rate estimate. Let's go ahead and see if we can take that off. There we go. Yep. Okay, great. Let's put that back on. Great. So this is your estimated precipitation rate that's coming down right now across the Boston Metro. Let me go ahead and probe that. We'll get you a better idea. 5-inch per hour rainfall rates at the center. You say, that sounds ridiculous. 5 inches per hour. Yeah, I believe it. Because you got to remember, it's only coming through in a brief moment of time. So you may rain 5 inches per hour for 10 minutes, so you're not going to get 5 inches of rain. But you are going to get a significant amount of rain that comes down in a short period of time. One of the other things we can do is we can look at the hail size. This may lag behind just a little bit, but once again, I can kind of probe that core that's, there we go, that's coming in on top of us. It's less than an inch. You're not quite up to an inch there out of that estimate. What we've done is we've actually turned our settings on that probe tool down. Let me see if I can get those set back up again in a short order so we can get a little bit more specific estimate of what's going on. I doubt I'm going to be able to do that in time, but nonetheless, you're getting that idea too that we've got the hail core that does fill in now and it's coming right over the Medford stretch, Malden, and then running up Route 93 as well. So let's swing back over to the radar, give you a good idea for what's going on with the latest radar scan. Every 60 seconds, we're getting another scan. There we go. This is your updated scan. Medford, you're still underneath some of that hail core. Now it's expanded north up toward Malden as well. Melrose, center of town, sitting just north of the hail core. It's going to head for Route 1. It's going to come to Saugus and Revere. Everett on the north side of town at 99 and 60. You're going to be looking at the hail core coming directly over you. I can go back over to a hail estimate so we can get a better idea of what the hail size may be with this thing. There we go. Let's go ahead and probe into that. And look at that. You've got the possibility of as much as 1 to 2 inch size hail with this. Do we think it actually is? No. What's happening with this is basically the radar is looking up inside of the storm and saying, okay, at its worst point, how big could the hail be? It doesn't always mean it's coming down to the ground at that size, but you do have now a 98% chance of severe hail, meaning about 1 inch size hail, that's making its way right on the north side of Everett, coming over 99 and 60. That's closing in on Route 1. So again, very heavy rain that's coming down right now. Danielle, any reports of...
hail in West Somerville just came in 30 seconds ago.
All right, West Somerville, 30 seconds ago. West Somerville has reported hail, 5 minutes of hail that came down in West Somerville. So again, West Somerville has reported hail with this storm. It makes sense. That was the exact center of that hail core when it came overhead. If you are watching from the Boston area, Cambridge is now into this heavy rain. There is the potential for some hail with this one as well. This core is producing some lightning and thunder with it, along with a torrential rain. Hail is a possibility. Strong wind is not impossible, but at the same time, I have to be candid with you, it looks like it's less of a possibility in the Cambridge stretch than it is farther to the north. Here's your towns and times for those who are interested. Let me slide it off to the right. so you can get a little bit better feel for it. Again, it's already been on top of you in places like Waltham and Woburn, so those are all by the boards. But notice Peabody 134, Salem 136, still closing in on top of you. Farther to the south, Medfield, you are sending the heavy rain and downpours out to Dedham. If you're in Dedham, you're not into it yet. If you're in Walpole, you're south of this storm for now. One thing we can do is we can actually loop it through over the course of the last 30 minutes and see exactly how things have been moving, because I'd be curious to see if we're getting any southward expansion of this yet that's coming toward the Medfield stretch. And at this point, doesn't look like we do. It looks like essentially it's all been moving pretty much west to east. We're filling in some of the images with time. So Walpole, at this point, you remain south of the storm. You've had actually just a little bit of outflow coming in. You might be able to see, I can zoom in a little bit more for you, from Norwood to Walpole. The light radar returns, the green that you see there is a little shower over you, but what's really happening here is that you're getting a burst of wind that's come out ahead of the storm. Cooler air, we call it outflow. It's basically the exhaust pipe of the storm. So you get the inflow of warmth and humidity out ahead of this thing. It fuels the core of the storm. And on the south side, you get the outflow. And that's what you're seeing in that green that shows up over I-95 when you get south of the split at Braintree. That's where you start running into that outflow, that cooler air. But at this point, the storm not really building into your direction. You can see a little southward expansion over 109 coming in out of Medfield. That's going to try and make its way farther to the south down 115 and 27. So obviously you're under a severe thunderstorm warning in Walpole and Sharon. The recommendation there is that you remain sheltered indoors away from windows as the storm comes by. But it certainly appears as though the worst of it right now is going to be off to your north. Let's go ahead and go back to the current radar imagery so you can get the latest scan. Again, every 60 seconds you've got a new scan that's coming in. We are getting one detection out of our algorithm right now of what's looking like it's probably some weak rotation inside of the storm. At this point, we don't believe that there's enough rotation there to worry about it. But what I'll do is I'll switch us over to storm relative velocity. What this is going to do is it's going to allow us to probe inside of the storm. And with this, we're going to be able to see if we adjust for storm motion, how is the wind moving? And the reason that's important is because you may have a blast of wind coming in, but the question is, if you adjust for the motion of the storm, is the wind going in different directions? So what you're looking to key in on here is you're looking to see if there's anything where you've got reds and greens that are coming close together. In other words, incoming air toward the radar and outgoing air away from the radar. If you don't see that, then you're not overly concerned with what you have setting up. And at this point, you see a lot of the wind moving in the same direction. So right now, you don't see anything that stands out to you as being that would be a strong rotation inside of the storm. One of the other things that we can do is we can look for gate-to-gate shear, we call it. This would be where we'd be able to pick up on whether or not there's strong rotation. We see some areas that show up as a bit of shear, nothing though that to me stands out as being overly concerning right now. The biggest and strongest storm cell, unquestionably, is that's now directly over Route 99. And this is from Revere up to Saugus. This is Melrose to Malden. The motion on the storm is east at 36 miles per hour. The severe thunderstorm warning remains in effect until 2:15. But remember, although that's a long time from now, that severe thunderstorm warning includes Marblehead and Cape Ann. Cape Ann, you've been dealing with your own cell that's been coming over Gloucester. So while it's a long, unbroken severe thunderstorm warning, and again, if you're just kind of tuning in right now, I can give you the latest details on that severe thunderstorm warning. This warning is in effect until 2:15. The hail size with this is estimated to be about 3/4 of an inch, but we may go more than that in spots. We've had radar estimates that we may be up to 1 inch to 2 when you get up inside the cloud. We don't believe that's all making it down to the ground, but certainly it's a possibility that we're seeing 1-inch hail making it down to the ground. All right, so with that severe thunderstorm warning that remains out, we say what's going on at Cape Ann? Cape Ann, what you've got is your own thunderstorm cell coming over Rockport. This is producing lightning, cloud-to-ground lightning, so you want to be tucked inside away from windows. Presumably by this point, the special marine warning was issued well in advance. It was a great call by the National Weather Service to get that marine warning out so that boats could get to port. So I would assume that we're pretty busy right now at the mouth of the Annisquam, Rockport Harbor, likely to be fairly busy with folks that have come into port that were out there enjoying what was a fairly quiet beginning to the day. But with these thunderstorms now coming in on top of you, the cloud-to-ground lightning becomes the biggest threat for you. It is raining to beat the band in Rockport and Gloucester. 133 to the north end of 128 at Blackburn Circle has got a lot of water coming down on it right now. But the chance for strong wind seems to be confined to right there, the center of the storm core, which now is over Boston. Logan Airport now has the center of the storm moving over. Danielle will want to watch and see what we get for reports out of Logan. Any more storm reports at all, or no? So far, the only report that Danielle has seen thus far has been the fact that we've been talking about hail that covered the ground for a brief time in West Somerville. We can go ahead and throw some of the storm reports on here for you as well to give you a little bit better feel for what's going on and see if there's anything new that's been coming in. And at this point, I don't see us seeing any of those storm reports that have come into play just yet. So right now, we'll continue to keep an eye on what's happening with the storm core that stretches from Saugus back down to Boston. Again, the warning extends farther south. Wow, look at that outflow now, huh? We talked about this a short time ago, that the exhaust pipe, so to speak, of the storm, cold air that's kind of exhausting out of the storm, causing this outflow boundary. Do you have to worry about it? No, it's usually just basically the outer fringe of the storm. But you're noticing now in Quincy, you watch, just over the course of the next 3 minutes or so, you're going to notice that cool wind kick up, and that's that storm wind. What happens is this storm builds up real tall in the sky, all right? So what it does is the higher up in the sky that it builds, the more that it's able to pick up on what we're looking at in terms of some of the cold air that's up high. So you bring that down to the ground, and you're able to feel that. And that's what creates that outflow boundary that we see. And that's what's stretched in across right now from the South Shore running down to the Braintree Split. Okay, we do have reports of wind damage. Danielle's got the reports of wind damage coming in out of Cambridge, Arlington, and Medford. Danielle, is that to us here at 1 degree outside, or is that from, that's National Weather Service Skywarn spotters? Okay, great. So we do have at least confirmation of wind damage now that's been done around Cambridge, Arlington, and Medford. So again, when we first joined you, the storm was coming right over Arlington and coming through Medford. That was part of the concern, right? And you can see where the storm has been. Now in Arlington and Medford, showing up just to the top left center of your screen. The worst of the storm is through you, but you still do have some cloud to ground lightning around. The worst of the wind is by you. That damaging wind threat now is over the city of Boston. It's over East Boston. It's running up through Chelsea and Winthrop. You're going to be up next. It's coming up to you over Winthrop Neck. You've also got it coming out of Saugus, Lynn, Swampscott, Nahant. You're sheltered indoors away from windows for the threat for damaging wind that may be coming through as the thunderstorm core continues to move to the east at 36 miles per hour. Route 1A in the Linway, it now has heavy rain on top of it. We've already seen that rain enough to slow traffic to a crawl at Route 1. It's already done that at 93. It's done it on the Mass Turnpike. So torrential rain is another concern with this as well. You can see when you get into South Boston, you haven't gotten into the same amount just yet out of this thing, but you've got a lot of downpours out over Brookline. Those continue to move to the east. There's thunder and lightning with that. Needham right now, the Newton-Needham stretch, you've got your own core of storms that extends down to Dedham. The last time I updated you on this, it was headed out directly toward Dedham. It's moving east now, so 138 at Milton, you're going to be in the path of this next. Again, at this point, we don't see any rotation associated with the storm. We don't see anything that stands out to us as being tornadic, but this is the potential for a damaging downburst wind, a straight line wind that comes down from the core of the storm, and that is the potential from Dedham up to Milton. So you're going to be remaining tucked indoors away from windows as this storm comes by. When you get to Needham with the heavy rain that we have coming down right now and the thunder and lightning, certainly staying indoors is a good idea, but the damaging threat has moved east of you. All right, let's go to the south side of the warning, and then we'll work our way back north again. Walpole, we had you tucked indoors because in case that storm expanded down 115 and 27, it has expanded south out of Medfield just a bit, and it looks like it certainly is going to clip Walpole on the way by. And Sharon, you're very close to the south edge of where this storm core is going to go. It's been generally moving east, but what we've seen is a slight southward expansion to it coming down 27. So Route 95 all the way to Walpole and Sharon, just be in mind that you certainly may start to see some of this coming across. Dedham, you've had the real heavy rain. Of course, a concern in Norwood. We remember the big flood event that we had, the flash flood event at Norwood Hospital from years ago where we got 6 inches of rain that fell in a short period of time. This, at this point, is not like that. And the reason I say that is because right now these storm cores are moving fast enough. They're all moving at an average speed of about 35, 36 miles per hour, so you don't get into park overhead. We have been talking about the potential for flash flooding in southern New England today, but not out of this. And the reason I say that too is because if we go back and we loop through over the last half hour, it might take just a minute to load. But if we loop through over the last half hour, you can see for yourself. I mean, look, in any given spot, the rain may last you 1 to 2 hours, but that leading edge, that heavy rain, that core of rain continues to move move pretty swiftly off to the east. So while it does cause standing water, while it does cause issues with travel, while it does cause hydroplaning concerns, while there can be big ponding and puddling of water that goes on, at the same time, we're not talking about a situation here where the storms themselves are going to sit for a long period of time. So the concern we have for flash flooding would be later this evening and probably more so in Connecticut than in the Boston metro. If you are just joining us, the severe thunderstorm warning remains in effect from the National Weather Service for the Boston metropolitan area, from Gloucester all the way to Boston and down to Sharon and Randolph. Now, if you're in Scituate or Marshfield, you're way outside of this thing, and you've had a great kind of, at least a leeway, great notice on this before it made its way in on top of you. But it's still got a little time to go before it gets in, and we'll see whether it makes it all the way as far south as where you are. For example, in Marshfield, you'll be right on the south side of this thing by the time it gets to you at all. So we'll see whether or not it gets in on you. Some of the stuff that we can do here, let's see if I can throw some manual tracks in on top of this for you, give you a little bit better idea for where we think the storms are going to be going. Of course, we know that the overall storm motion has been about 35, 36 miles per hour moving off to the east. And so that's one thing that we kind of have set up. And that's why we know that while it's over Boston now, it won't be long before we see this stuff continue to move farther off to the east. So let's go ahead and draw. We'll drag the storm line down right across the leading edge to the storms. All right, we'll bring you on the leading edge to the downpours. We'll take it all the way to the south side of the storms. We'll come out. We'll find our average speed here that's about 35, 36 miles per hour in eastward motion on these storms overall. We'll give you your towns and times. So Milton, you're right on, it's on top of you now. Quincy, same thing. It's just about on top of you. Quincy, give it a few more. It's 1:43 now, so 1:49 is your estimated time this thing gets over you. Braintree about 1:51, Hull about 1:51, Randolph about 1:53. Hingham 1:58, Weymouth 1:58, North Scituate at 2:05, and Scituate at about 2:10. So that's your estimated time of arrival on these storms as they continue to move east. Again, is it an unbroken line? It is. It's an unbroken line that goes all the way up to Gloucester and Rockport. But at the same time, is it an unbroken line of damage? No. We've had reports of some isolated damage now out of Cambridge, Arlington, and Medford. That's with that purple storm core I'll zoom you into that now is coming over Nahant. We told you that Nahant to Winthrop, you were going to be next in line. So the one area that does have a history of producing some damaging wind is with that storm that's coming over Swampscott and Nahant. That's moving east, and before long, that part will be over the ocean. You'll notice, too, though, very heavy rain up 129 through Lynn, over Market Street, and then running up into Peabody and Lynnfield. You've got your same area of real heavy rain and some embedded hail that's moving east. That's going to travel right over 107. That's going to be what's up next. Marblehead, you're tucked indoors away from windows as the storm approaches from the west. Again, it's coming west to east on top of you. Boston, you're now done with the worst part of the storm. The core of the storm core that brought that isolated damaging wind has been to your north. But there was the potential we were talking about for that in Boston, too. So I won't be shocked if we see some reports of an isolated wind damage report in Boston. But now the center of that storm core is over Winthrop, and that is going to continue to move over Winthrop and out over Boston Harbor. It's still coming down heavy in Boston, and you've got cloud-to-ground lightning right now that's still happening in and around the city. So you want to stay sheltered indoors as this thing comes on by. You remember that old adage I love to share with you, right? When thunder roars, go indoors. But it really is very true, because lightning is one of those things that even when the worst of the storm is past, you can still get the cloud-to-ground lightning strikes. Now, we're seeing the lightning really dying down when you get farther to the west. Those of you that might be tuning in from Marlborough up 495 through Harvard and Lowell and Berlin, and then running up into Lawrence and Andover, Haverhill, Methuen. Look, you've had your rain that's come through. You never got into the same kind of thunderstorm energy that we had down across the Boston metro. You have no concern with any damage that's going to be done. Most of your thunder and lightning now has eased off to the east. Some of that stuff that you still see over 495 and Route 3 coming in toward Billerica, that may still produce an isolated cloud-to-ground lightning strike. That's what's been coming out of Littleton Common. And then the farther south that you go, this is where most of your torrential rain, your cloud-to-ground lightning is located at Dedham and Milton. So, again, Quincy, we're down a minutes away. I told you 1:49 on arrival time. It's 1:46 now. So I expect in the next 3 minutes that will likely verify, and you'll have that storm that'll be right on top of you with the torrential rain and the cloud-to-ground lightning in the vicinity. Also, Norwood, here you go. You already got hit once. You sent it up to Dedham and Milton, but you got the next core now coming out of Medfield. This is the one that's expanded down to Walpole on the south side of the storm. Get you in a little bit closer. There's Norwood Center. Sorry, I got you jumping around a little bit. There you go. And this is coming in towards Sharon right now. So Sharon, you've been under the severe thunderstorm warning, and now you've had at least the thunderstorm expand in your direction. This is not anywhere close to the same intensity that we saw cause some of the isolated damage up at Cambridge, Arlington, and Medford. It's not as strong as what we see over Winthrop right now, but you are going to get a good douse, at least a rain that comes through for you. Medfield, you're actually almost on the back side of the real heavy downpours already. Dover, you've got about another 30 minutes on this downpour. Then there's showers that are back behind it as well. All right, we're talking about another core of possible small hail that's coming over Route 3 and 1A and 203. I'll zoom in a little bit more. You can see this is where you come through Milton and you start coming up to Boston. You usually crawl along in the Southeast Expressway. Well, we're really crawling now, aren't we? Yeah, this is where we've got at least our heavy rain and potential small hail. It's coming up over South Boston at this point. Quincy, you're just about to get into the rain part of it. The hail core, if there is any hail at the center of that thing, is up over South Boston mostly, and now coming out over the harbor. Winthrop is under the center of this. Nahant, you're underneath the hail core, and again, there likely is still some small hail that's with this as well. That's exactly what's coming out of Lynn and into Marblehead. So a short time ago, we put you on guard in Marblehead. We told you were next. You wanted to stay sheltered indoors. As the storm came in. Now here we go. You are seconds away from getting kind of the heaviest part of that storm, what we call that storm core, coming in on top of you. How are we doing on damage reports? Anything new? Nothing. So we're pretty stable. Good. So looks like we saw a little pulse that came in through Cambridge, Arlington, and Medford. Again, as I mentioned a short time ago, I won't be shocked if we see a tree down or a limb down report come out of Boston proper, only because we have so many trees that are old and limbs that are weak in that Boston area right in the city. So we may still see another report come out of that, but I can tell you that the worst of the damage is done. Yep.
Reports of trees, wires down in Everett, Arlington, Lexington, Malden, Medford, Cambridge.
Great. Let me turn your microphone on so you can say that a little bit louder so I don't have to repeat all that. Okay. And go ahead.
Skywarn spotters report pockets of trees and wires down in Everett, Arlington, Lexington, Malden, Medford, Cambridge, Somerville, and Westwood right now.
All right. So it looks like we had a pretty good downburst then that formed with that storm core. And that's the same storm core, by the way, that's over Winthrop right now and continues to move out in toward Boston Harbor. It just came through Lynn, so we may get some more reports out of that. And that's Marblehead, while we've got you inside as well as this storm core comes through. Again, no indication at this point there's any rotation with this. All indications thus far, and let's go ahead while I say that, let's go ahead and make sure nothing has changed. Yeah, this is your storm relative velocity. What we're doing here, and I can actually put the miles per hour on for you as well. What we're doing, and you say, well, wait, that doesn't look like that bad. Well, hold on, I'll take you to the velocity in a second. What we're doing is we're looking for incoming, meaning air moving toward the radar, and outgoing, if there's air moving away from the radar. Now, if they're right next to each other, you got a big problem. You don't see that, though, do you? So that means you don't have rotation. So the problem then hasn't been rotation. The problem hasn't been tornadic. The problem instead has been downburst wind. And if we look inside these storms and what's coming up over Cape Ann right now, it's fairly weak in spots, but there's been other spots that we've seen at times are winds that have been on the order of about 45, 50 miles per hour. It's funny. You look here and you don't see a lot of wind that's moving at least along the horizontal plane. And I say that because one thing we can do is I can actually take this and switch it over to downdraft gust potential. Good. So what we're doing, yep.
Couple of reports of pea-size hail. No more wind damage. Pea-size hail. Yep.
Pea-sized hail. Mm-hmm. So one of the things we were looking at before is we're looking at velocity inside the storm, and I was telling you it's only, 9, 10 miles per hour. So you say, oh, good, nothing to worry about. No, the problem is when you get this real heavy downpour and we get hail involved and very heavy rain, then the air is not necessarily moving horizontally anymore, right? Rotation, you'd see it moving horizontally. But in this case, it becomes what we call a downburst. So these are real-time estimates on downburst winds at the center of the storm. Notice that 50... Yep.
Gust to Boston was 53 miles per hour reported.
Excellent. Boston just gusted to 53. And the reason I say excellent is because that matches up. Look at this. You come into this radar tool, right? And this is something you won't really find hardly anywhere else. We've got it at 1 degree outside, and we're proud to have it for you. But this is your downburst tool. So what we're doing is, rather than saying, all right, well, give me the overall motion inside the storm, that's fine. But it becomes, in instances like this, it becomes a problem because you cannot just assume that what you've got is wind moving horizontally in a storm. You have to also understand that as this storm has reached its maximum intensity, it's got what we call a downburst wind, and that's coming in 3 dimensions, right? Essentially, that's coming from the top of the cloud down to the ground. So what we're showing you here is that downburst wind estimate, and now all of a sudden, you'll look at that and say, I get it, right? If we go back over to the regular velocity plot, and we start to go through the numbers on the regular velocity plot, 8, 10 miles per hour, right? That's it. But I left on there those downburst wind estimates, and that's where you start to see the problem. So one of the things that I want to do is, let me get you switched back over to the regular reflectivity, and let's go down south, because this storm now has strengthened when you get down around Randolph. And this was a great call. I got to say, National Weather Service did a phenomenal job issuing the south side of this warning all the way down to Randolph and Marshfield. And essentially what's happened is you've had the outflow that's coming out ahead of this thing. It's some of the cool air, but this is still able to tap into enough warmth and humidity. Actually, frankly, it's been building and feeding in some of the warmth and humidity on the south side of that outflow boundary. So you've got outflow boundary is the exhaust, it's the cool air out of the center of the storm. But now you're feeding some of that warmth and humidity out of Abington and Brockton, and that's why this storm has expanded south. Now you talk about the potential. You might even see it come outside of the south border of that severe thunderstorm warning. If that happens, don't be shocked if there's a new severe thunderstorm warning issued for Abington, Hanson, and Marshfield proper rather than up around Marshfield Hills and Scituate. If you're watching from the South Shore and you're wondering, well, when is this stuff all getting to me? Sorry about the in and out there on some of the zooming, right? But nonetheless, aside from getting seasick, I think I could take pretty good care of you. Let's go ahead and say, when is this storm actually going to come out of Randolph and arrive at the South Shore? Let's go ahead. What I want to do is I want to drag that whole front line along, all right? Go ahead, Danielle.
People in Arlington reporting inch of rain in 10 minutes, dime-size hail in Arlington.
Great. Okay. Inch of rain in 10 minutes with dime-size hail. So you might, if you've been watching this live stream long enough, then you'll remember we actually showed you a 5-inch per hour estimate on precipitation. And I told you it's not going to rain 5 inches because it doesn't rain an hour, but it's going to rain that hard for a short time. So to get an inch of rain in 10 minutes, you said? Mm-hmm. There you go. That's your inch per hour rainfall, your 5-inch per hour rainfall rate that verifies right there. All right, here's your towns and times on that southern storm. It's just coming out of Randolph. Holbrook, 1:57 arrival time for you. Marshfield Hills at 2:22. 2:23 expected to arrive to Scituate. Now you see 2 different times there. You see 2:23 Scituate, and then you see 2:15 Scituate also, right? So basically, it depends on what part of town you're in. Because remember, it's moving in from west to east. So that storm core is going to continue to move right in on top of you if you're along the south side of this warning. Do you see that in the cone that I've drawn here, you also still have it going a little bit farther south than the existing warning right now? And that's why I said you might see an expansion south of a new warning before too long around Brockton, Abington, well, maybe not Brockton, but Abington, Hanson, maybe down to North Pembroke. You can also see that countdown time that I put here on the screen for you. This gives you an idea until how long you have till impact. So if you're watching from, let's say, Scituate, you can put that right over you and say, all right, I've got, about 28 minutes until the storm's on top of me. It's closed in a little bit since we drew that core, so why don't we call it 25 among friends, right? But when you start coming in along Route 3 and 58, I mean, if you're at Route 58, you get 6 minutes or less until that storm is in on top of you. So you get the idea for part of what this tool is designed to do. One of the things that Danielle and I have done is by going digital first, we think it's important that we introduce some new tools that you might not be able to get when you're just getting these quick updates, right? So some of those tools, for example, are being able to see exactly when and get the countdown on when that storm's going to arrive. We can do the same thing when you get to Hull at Nantasket Beach. Hopefully folks are tucked in now because we've got that storm coming in. If you are watching this at Nantasket, and did we push notify in any of this or no? We
Twitter,
did. In app? No, okay. That'd be great, just for folks who are along the beach at Nantasket. And we could just put a link right to the livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. That'll be fine. But for folks who are along, Nantasket Beach, if you're watching this, stay tucked in. This thing's coming in with quite a bit of thunder and lightning. That's cloud to ground lightning, something that would have to be aware of. So just something to keep in mind there. It's coming out of North Weymouth right now. Very heavy rain, torrential rain in North Weymouth. Ponding of water, puddling, that's going to be part of an issue for us as well. You can also see And also in that push, you could mention that in the app on the home screen, they could scroll down to the bottom and just click the live stream there. So that's right built into the home screen of the app, and we can remind folks of that since this will be their first time actually getting a notification about us live streaming. Now, for folks in the Boston area, hopefully you've already been watching this live stream and you've already seen that, but nonetheless, the worst is over for the Boston proper. For the city of Boston, the worst is over. The worst is now out over the harbor out of that cell. In Gloucester, you had one back-to-back. You had like a 1-2 shot on the storms that came in. You're still getting some pretty good thunderstorm action right now, but notice the hail probability is down to about 50% on a storm that's over Gloucester right now. This all continues to move off to the east. I want to get a little bit closer in on that one that's headed out to Nantasket, and then we're going to do that one on the south side of the warning as well. So again, this warning is set to expire at 2:15. It goes down to about Scituate or Marshfield Hills. Okay, here's the new, there you go. Okay, Nantasket's under it now. So the new scan came in. We've been getting a new scan about every minute or so. Let me go ahead and just pull a downdraft estimate. Again, this is something that I haven't seen done anywhere else. I don't think you're going to see it too many other places. This is what we're doing is we're actually taking the horizontal wind, but then adjusting it for how strong the downward motion is inside the storm. So heavy rain can carry wind down to the surface. So you'll notice over Nantasket, it's about a 35 mile per hour downburst wind. But when you get up to Hull and you get just over the harbor, you've got about a 47 mile per hour downburst wind. By the way, this is great software that we're using, and it's a hats off to Paul Maravelius, who built this right out of Windham, New Hampshire. It's called WSV3. It's great software, and it's something we're really proud to have partnered with Paul to bring you. You know, some of what we share on a daily basis comes out of Europe. This stuff here has come right out of Windham, New Hampshire. So we've kind of scoured the world, literally, to try and find what's going to suit you best in a digital-first environment. All right, so this storm over Randolph now has got a 40% chance of hail with it. But again, the concern here is the heavy rain that's coming down over Randolph. Brockton, it's on the north side of the city for you. It's coming across Route 27. Continues moving to the east, and we expect that to be coming out toward Marshfield Hills and crossing Route 3. It's over Route 3 now into Weymouth, but it won't be long that it comes down Route 3 farther and makes its way out toward Marshfield. And if I zoom in a little bit more, you can see 123 and how this is just about at 18. It should come down and basically move right along 123. We've given you Holbrook as one of the arrival times, so there's the storm now on top of you in Holbrook. Thunder, lightning, good frequent cloud-to-ground lightning in parts of Randolph right now. We've had that too. That's over Nantasket Beach, and then the other area that extends out over Boston Harbor. If you're watching us from the city or north and west of town, we've had damage done in a number of locations. Wind damage from a downburst, we believe, based upon radar estimates. We saw no indication necessarily that this should have been something where it was tornadic. We think it was all probably straight-line downburst winds that came from the center of the storm. Radar estimates on the downburst strength was on the order of 50 to 55 miles per hour at its strongest point, and that's continued, though, to move eastward since then. And we're no longer getting winds that strong, but we are getting an estimate of downburst winds with those storms south of Boston that may be on the order of about 45 miles per hour or so, and I'll show you that estimate again in a minute. How are we doing over there? Anything new?
Nothing new.
Nothing new. All right, so that's good. We've quieted down a little bit in terms of some of the damage reports coming in, which is good to see. But let's go ahead and get you that south of town estimate again and give you, once again, I'd like to get a refresh on the towns and times. We know that the overall average motion of the storm is east at about 36 miles per hour. So one of the things I'd like to do is be able to take this right off of Nantasket, draw it down over Hingham, take it down right on the leading edge to where that storm is, down to Brockton, and then I'd like to take it farther out from there. All right, let's see. We'll take the north end of it in Hingham first.
Yeah, Chris says very windy in Rockland. It just blew through.
Rockland, Mass. just blew through. Very windy. All right, good to know. Scituate, 2:12. 2:12, the arrival time for you. 2:12 at Scituate. You can see you've got, about 10 minutes left until it's on top of you. Marshfield Hills, you're going to be watching that storm come in as well. Let's do a little bit of a track for you. I'd like to do a track on this south side of the storm. There we go. We'll take it on the leading edge. Again, north side of Brockton. Bring it off to the east. We'll bring it through at about 36 miles per hour. And let's slide our towns and times where you can see them nice and easily. All right, here we go. So Abington, you've got minutes to go until it's on top of you. Hanson, same deal. You might remember we talked about that, right? The potential that that storm would expand down all the way to Abington and Hanson. So it looks like it succeeded in doing that. 2:14 at North Pembroke. Marshfield Hills at 2:16. Scituate at 2:16. and then Marshfield proper at about 220. And it does now look, we had talked earlier, all right, about the fact that would the storm expand that far south as Marshfield. It looks like it's done a pretty successful job at doing that as it's been feeding off the warmth and humidity that's been in place. So again, if we take you down to the center of Marshfield, you've got about 18 minutes before storm arrival. Hanson, you're now down to about 6 minutes or so before storm arrival, and it gets on top of you. We would remind you that lightning does strike as much as 10 miles outside the center of the storm, which essentially means that you may be talking about lightning striking out ahead of where that heavy rain is and out ahead of the time estimates that I just gave you. If you're watching us from north of town, it's still raining to beat the band along I-95. Biggest impact right now, Merrimack Valley, North Shore, areas north of town and into the Metro West. Your biggest impact? It's to travel. It's absolutely to the roadways. You had a significant amount of rain that came down in a short period of time. What I can probably do here is put that actual precipitation down for you. Let me see if I can get a 3-hour precipitation estimate for you. I'll go ahead and I'm going to hide the radar for a minute and see if we can get that. It's a little bit lagging behind, I think, here on what we're looking at. See if I can bring it forward. Yeah, it's a little bit lagging behind. So we'll keep on top of that and see if I can bring you another update as to what's going on with that in a short time. Let me see if I can get you. I can certainly get you the precipitation rate anyway.
Some wind damage in Revere pictures just coming in of a pretty healthy looking large tree that just kind of split in half.
Okay.
10 minutes.
All right. Danielle's got that for us. Thank you, Danielle. Revere. And I'm assuming that everybody can hear Danielle's mic just fine. We got them both. Yep, we got them both on again. So I think we're good there. All right, so here's that precipitation estimate that I promised I was going to bring you. The rainfall rate, how hard it's coming down right now. And here's the thing, your rainfall rate has come down a lot when you get north of town, right? But when you get into the, look at this, 6-inch per hour rainfall rate. And by the way, folks, this has been verifying. Absolutely. We have had reports now of as much as what was an inch of rain in 10 minutes. 7-inch per hour rain is out over the harbor, but you don't care so much about that when it's over the harbor. So right now, Randolph to Brockton is got to be the area that would be most concerned with, and the area that's that certainly is the one that's getting the heaviest of the rain. Let me see if I can just pull up that 3-hour. It takes just a minute to load that precipitation amount. I'd love to get that precip 3-hour estimate to see how much rain we think has fallen overall. It's generally been 1 inch to 2 inches. It looks like it doesn't want to load too fast, and I don't want you to leave you looking at a blank map for too long. What do you got, Danielle?
Boston went from 84 to 66 degrees within a half hour.
Wow, all right. And that's that cold air up high in the sky that we were talking about, right? That's that cold air. It's coming down. And that's, you know, when these storms, when they build up that high into the sky, they pull down the cold from aloft. And you see, that's exactly what Danielle just mentioned. That drop in temperature from 80s to 60s. That's exactly why you had hail falling in these spots, right? Because the air's so cold aloft, it was below freezing. So you formed these balls of ice, and you brought them right down to the ground. So obviously, you got to get the cold air that descends down with it, and you got to get that nearly 20-degree temperature drop that happens in a rapid period when you get the storms that come through. So we were talking about north of town, your biggest impact being the travel. Now that's becoming the issue, too, at Boston and Newton. If you were watching us earlier, we tracked the storm core as it came through Somerville, Cambridge, Arlington, Medford, Everett, Revere. Reports of damage in all those spots. So that was a localized, damaging downburst wind that came with the storm. It was at the core of the storm. There was at no point any signature of rotation with that storm. That was purely, as best we can tell from radar estimates and the tools that we showed you live here at 1 degree outside, that was purely downburst wind. It was the nature of having that cold air aloft, that rushing down air because we had the downpours and the hailstones that were coming down. It carried that cold air down in one big puff that went on the order of about 50, 55 miles per hour. So now we look at Weymouth. South Weymouth is getting hit hardest now. It was North Weymouth a short time ago. We sent that up to Nantasket. And now you get the heavy rain over Weymouth and Route 53. But that southward expansion of the storm over Randolph and Brockton means that I'd like to actually do a little bit of a closer inspection here and see what's going on for downburst wind.
A new severe thunderstorm warning came out from Maine, too, just so you know.
From Maine. All right, thanks, Danielle.
Yep.
We'll take a look at that here in just a second. So new severe thunderstorm warning in Maine. We'll get there in a moment. All right, so here's the concern. Is that you can see we've still got estimates here using, this is a great tool, I mentioned it earlier, built in Windham, New Hampshire, but it's a way for us to be able to look at what's going on with the downburst winds that are coming through. So you've still got estimates of 47 mile per hour downburst winds from Quincy to Randolph, and that's coming into South Weymouth, and that's coming across Route 58, and that's coming in to Route 3. Now that's within the severe thunderstorm area. You can see that orange box. That's your severe thunderstorm warning remains in effect till 2:15. Tucked indoors away from windows. Situate, we gave you your time earlier. We think it's 2:19 on arrival for you. Close enough, right? We don't need to split hairs, but just so you know, that's probably one of the worst if it gets in for you. As I switch the colors around, what am I doing? I'm swinging back over to our regular, what we call reflectivity mode. So Danielle mentioned that we've got a storm up in Maine now that we've got a severe thunderstorm warning with. There it is, coming out of Rumford. Yep, Piscataqua. Oh, no, even farther with Millinocket. Gotcha. Yep. Millinocket. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to throw on the New England-wide radar. So one of the things that we do is, of course, we cover all of New England, right? We know that that's the need, and so we want to make sure that we do that for you. So I'm going to come back to the Boston area storm in just a minute because we know a lot of you are watching from the Boston metropolitan area. But I also do want to give you an idea on towns and times on the storm that's coming in toward Millinocket right now. This is really not a dense populated area, so Millinocket is about the only place that we're going to put on. 2:22 is your arrival time for Millinocket. Severe thunderstorm warning in effect for you. You're tucked indoors away from windows as the storm comes out of Greenville, comes off the lakes, and makes its way to the east. I-95 would be next. But again, this is a pretty sparsely populated area. So if you're watching us on the live stream, we appreciate you being on board, and we want to take good care of you because we don't forget about you, even if there aren't a lot of folks around your area. We know Millinocket, though. You got a nice town, and you've got about, let's see, what do you have left? About 10 minutes. About 10 minutes, 10, 11 minutes until you get that storm in on top of you. So you can be prepared for that. And give a call if you know somebody who's out and about and getting work done outside. Tell them it's time to tuck on in. Farmington, what's happening here is that the Boston radar is going in on top of you. Let me turn the Boston radar off for a second. You've got a special weather statement that's out for you. This is one step shy of a severe thunderstorm warning, but you may get the severe thunderstorm warning coming next. This storm has been strengthening en route to Farmington. So again, a max wind gust on this, about 50 miles per hour at this point. You need 58 in order to prompt a severe thunderstorm warning. So you're close. You're not quite there. That may be the next one up, and after that, Skowhegan and Waterville would be next in line. Coming across the remainder of northern New England, you've got some isolated cells that are up across the White Mountains and White Mountain National Forest, just sending one downpour. It looks to be just a downpour. There may be a strike of lightning with this thing, but it would be few and far between in terms of lightning. That's coming out of 16, coming out of the notches, heading out toward 113 now as it gets ready to cross over the state line and makes its way from Carroll County and then cross over the state line to Maine. Littleton or Lisbon, you've got a downpour coming in. That's not all that strong either. But what's happening is you're getting these lobes of energy that are kind of launching in. And then you got the front itself is way back up in Quebec. So again, down to the south we go. We've got storms coming out of southeast New York. Kingston, New York's got a pretty good storm going. That's moving east. That's going to try and close in on Canaan, Connecticut in the next hour. And this is the area over Pennsylvania that we updated on with a video update earlier in the day. We gave the video update on what would be happening for the rest of the day, saying basically that this line coming through Boston has robbed a lot of the energy out of the atmosphere. So we don't know that there's going to be a line of widespread strong to severe storms again later in the day for Worcester, Boston, because you've already kind of spent a lot of the atmospheric energy out of this. And in a little bit, I can actually draw that for you and give you a little bit better idea for what I mean by, you've spent a lot of the energy. But if we could, I'd love to get back down into that Boston area storm because we do still have these storms coming in on the South Shore, and I don't want to let you go. We've carried you this far, so I want to make sure that we're still with you until it comes through. So Situate, here you go. Here's your leading edge now that's coming up over Route 3A. It's trying to drop in on top of you. The first edge is going to go east. So it's come out of Cohasset, and it's going to scrape on the north side of Situate. The second round is coming out of South Weymouth down to Abington, right on the edge. This is moving east, and that's going to come right into Marshfield Hills. Marshfield should be on the south side of it as well. Getting a little bit of what we call attenuation, a little bit of bending of the radar beam because the radar center itself is at Taunton, Mass. So when you get right over the radar dome, you tend to get things squashed out. But you can see it does appear we may have another area downpour developing over Route 123 in the Taunton stretch. So that's something to keep in mind. We'll keep an eye on that. But right now, certainly the big show is over the South Shore.
Russell says they had a decent burst of wind in North Weymouth about 10 minutes ago, but it's relatively calm now. Diano says the sun's trying to peek out again in Needham Heights now, and Cheris says just got absolutely drenched in Rockport. That was 3 minutes ago.
Oh, all right. Thank you, everybody, for the reports there, and we do appreciate you. Where are those, Danielle, reports coming in from? What
some
what
of
medium?
them are restreamed, some of them are on the 1DO Chatango.
Great. So some of you watching the live stream and commenting in right there, we appreciate that. That is honestly obviously the best way to get with us right away is to watch that live stream and add to the comments right there because that's going to be the way that we see it right away. Of course, social media, I think you know our handle, the number 1 degree outside. You'll find us on just about every social media platform in that with that exact handle, the number 1 degree outside.
And just so you know, National Weather Service is saying they are going to set the expiration is 2:15 and they will let it expire.
Okay, that's great. So 4 minutes to go on
they
this
just
one.
did. Sorry, it just updated. They just expired it.
Just expired it?
Right
Okay,
now,
great.
yeah.
So we should see it wipe off our screen here fairly soon, which doesn't undo the fact that you still get the downpours over South Weymouth, right? So we know North Weymouth had some gusty wind that came through. We know we've still got the heavy rain coming out of Randolph over Route 18 and Route 3. Scituate, you're right, you can see right on the south side of that heavy rain. It's over North Scituate right now. Marshfield, we do believe you're going to get hit with this heavy rain, thunder, and lightning. Now, that is one of the other things, too, worth mentioning. And let me take off, just so it doesn't get confusing, let me take off the New England wide radar for a second. There we go. And you can see how that back edge is getting real sharp out by Randolph. So it's funny, you never had damaging storms up around Rowley, Ipswich, and over Lawrence, but you had a lot longer lasting rain than we had to the south. Where it's been stronger, it blasted through quicker, right? So you get the reports of the sun that are breaking out in Needham, et cetera, Natick. So again, you're on the back side of that. You're done with it a little bit faster, but you paid the price. New special marine warning is out now for basically from Scituate Harbor down to Plymouth Harbor. Bless you, bless
Thank
you.
you.
Out to Provincetown as well. That special marine warning for the potential of hail, and of course you've got gusty winds that may go upwards of over 50 miles per hour. Coastal waters from Cape Ann down through Stellwagen. That'd be a fun whale watch to be on, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Of course, they do have plenty of room to navigate down there with this particular storm. If you have a line going even farther south, it'd be a little bit more concerning. Although some of those whale watches going out of Gloucester are probably having quite a time right now, I would imagine. Some of the fishing charters as well. Who knows? Some of you out there might be watching us right now. That's the beauty of being able to be digital first, is you can get us just about anywhere. So if you are out there, shoot us a picture, would you?
National Weather Service in Caribou just sent out a beautiful picture of the Greenville airport showing the shelf cloud from that thunderstorm up in Maine. Gorgeous shelf cloud that just came
Oh, the
out
one
of
that's
there.
over Millinocket right now? Oh, son of a gun. That's great. Can we retweet that out of our Twitter account? That would be
just did.
really great. Awesome. Already did it. And that's, okay, Greenville. So there you go. So that was the storm center coming out of Greenville, moving in toward Millinocket. Millinocket, you've got not a long time before that storm's on top of you now. Looks like, what are we down to? About 4 minutes, 5 minutes before the storm's on top of Millinocket. So that continues to move off to the east-northeast, and the severe thunderstorm warning with that one remains in effect now until 2:30 this afternoon. Max hail to 1 inch. And at this point, you've got the potential for straight line wind damage inside of that thing. But anytime you see a wall cloud, you start to worry just a little bit, wonder just a little bit if you got a little rotation at the core of it. But it's a real small core at this point. There's that storm that was around Rumford, Maine, where it's headed towards Skowhegan. No severe thunderstorm warning yet. In fact, the special weather statement's been allowed to expire. Danielle, I know I'm going to lose you here in about 60 seconds or so. But thank you for everything that you've been doing here. This has been great teamwork together. It's what it's all about, right? All right, Scituate, here we go. So you've seen, whoa, how you doing? There we go, zoom out, there we go. You've seen a core of the storm strengthen just a little bit now as it comes out of North Scituate. So you likely do have a little bit of hail. We can go ahead and swing you over. One thing we could do, when we were doing this earlier when the storms are coming right through the Boston Metro, is we can give you the probability of severe hail inside of this storm, try to get a little bit feel. And you know what, it looks like at this point, let's see if it's going to update. Looks like at this point we're not, that's not going to update on the fly for us, which is fine. Do I have a mean estimate of hail? No. All right. We'll go back over to the reflectivity out of it here, and we'll get back over to what is kind of the more standard view of what's happening with this. So inside of this, we've had at least hail reports earlier that were on the order of, I think, where were we at? Somewhere, was it half an inch at one point? Or?
It was pea size. Someone said dime size.
Dime size hail for one of them. Very good. And that was enough to cover the road in spots. At this point, what we're looking at, I think, is probably just small hail. I think you're down to your pea size stuff, headed to Scituate. That storm core is not as strong, not as powerful as it was a short time ago. From Weymouth south down Route 18, this now has transitioned to mostly just downpours with thunder and lightning. Here's your outflow boundary. That's the exhaust pipe of the storm we were talking about a short time ago. Now that's approaching Marshfield, it's approaching Bridgewater. You're going to feel that cooler air that's going to come in with this thing because, again, it's part of that cold air we talked about earlier that was helping to create the hailstones and kind of swing it down to the south. And then when you get up around the Boston area, you're on the back side of this, so you've kind of transitioned out of a lot of the downpours in heaviest weather. So, you know, I think at this point, with the fact that we're sub-severe, with the fact that we have this coming in toward the South Shore, do you think, Danielle, that we could probably stand down for the time being on the live stream?
I think we're good.
I think so. So here's the thing, though. We need to get better every single time. So if you're on the live stream right now and you're watching, would you please use the chat and let us know how you think it was? And I want you to be honest, how the quality you think of the live stream was, if it was beneficial, if it was information that you would want to pass along to family and friends. And also the other thing about this would be too, how is the quality of the video? Because we had some complaints on that the last time, and so we've made a lot of hard work on trying to get the quality to be decent, so you can see towns and
some
street
people
levels.
are already commenting, say
Okay.
it's been great,
Okay.
and the live notification via the app was
Okay.
awesome, and
Good.
then that made them transition to a computer just
Okay.
because it's bigger
Good.
than
Excellent.
seeing it on the phone, which is awesome.
Excellent. Well, look, we are all, when we launched this, we said we're doing this, it's about dialogue, it's not about monologue, okay? And so, and we really mean that, which is that we're so used to, over the last 25 years, delivering it, and here it is. And now it's our chance to say, tell us what you need, tell us what you want. Did this hit the spot? If it did, great. If it didn't, keep us posted, and we can make improvement. There is a new severe thunderstorm warning now that's come out. We talked about that storm up in Skowhegan and the fact that we were getting close to severe thunderstorm strength on that. We've arrived. The storm center itself now is moving east. Skowhegan is just outside of this severe thunderstorm warning, but let's go ahead and put that on for you. Again, your locations are showing up: Farmington, Oakland, Madison, Jay, Belgrade, right? Going through Smithfield, Rome, Vienna. And let's go ahead also and put the towns and times. There we go. 226 coming into Farmington, 302 to Norwich Walk, 310 to Skowhegan. You're going to pick up our son, aren't you? All right. Thank you. Yeah, I'll mute your mic. All right, sounds good. Thank you very much, Danielle. Thank you. Very good. And that is part of it. You know, look, we're a startup, right? It's two of us, starting up. This 1 degree outside weather service. So that means that we have two of us, and one of us has to go pick up the kids. So I'm going to stay with you. And Danielle is going to go, and God bless us. She's going to keep our family running, and then I'll catch up with them in a little while. So again, you see your towns and times that show up here on the screen for you. Let me go ahead and get rid of that, and we'll go ahead and zoom out just a little bit more. Nobody ever said that starting something up was not going to be a lot of work, and I got to tell you, I actually love hard work. I thrive off of it. It's great. So the not waking up at 1:30 in the morning every day has been fantastic. But working hard any day. I love it. All right. Those of you, if you do happen to be watching us from the Crown of Maine, we've got another storm that's actually taking off pretty quickly up around Caribou. So it's quite possible that we end up with a severe thunderstorm warning in short order from Caribou to Limestone. I certainly would suggest in this area you want to be sheltered indoors, away from windows regardless, because that storm likely is going to hit severe thunderstorm limits. Also, what we were looking at before, which was just a little downpour over Littleton, has been strengthening. And you know what? It's about to hit the mountains. And I'll tell you what, I think it's probably going to get a push. When he's come up over the mountains, a lot of times they get a little bit extra strength over 302 in the Kankamagas, and that very well may happen here as this thing comes out of Littleton. I think it may grow, it may strengthen. It's coming right up on Mount Washington. Hello to the Mount Washington Observatory. If anybody up there is watching right now from the Weather Observatory at the summit, we'll look for your social media updates on what this storm does for you. I would have to think you might get some hail up there at the summit. I mean, certainly we've had hail all the way down to the ground in the Boston area, so why not, right? The other storm headed to Norway has been doing the opposite. Once it got over the mountains, that southwest wind is actually sloping down out of the Mount Washington Valley. It's sloping down off the southern end of the Whites, sloping down off the Presidentials. So it actually is helping to weaken the storm temporarily. That trend may reverse as that storm nears Norway and then moves out toward Augusta. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then you get the storms down to the Boston area. And once again, I could pop the Boston area radar just because it looks better, I think. And you can get a little bit more detail out of that. We'll take the New England wide one off. Here we go. So we've been waiting on that southern flank of the storm to arrive to Scituate. It has. Again, the severe thunderstorm warning now has been allowed to expire. So the South Shore of Massachusetts is getting into this thing. You've got the heavy rain. You've got the cloud-to-ground lightning. You may get some locally gusty wind at the core of this. And the core of that storm, where it's strongest and heaviest now, by the way, is coming up on Route 139. It continues to move off. Whoa, there we go. I got to get my mouse down pat here, don't I? There we go. Continues to come up over 53. and Route 3. And the biggest impact along Route 3 and the Southeast Expressway, unquestionably, has been water on the road, right? That's been one of the biggest things slowing folks down, and that's still the case. I-95 has been slow up through Boxford, Topsfield, Danvers, Peabody, all the way up through Newburyport. Thankfully, at Newburyport, you're about to see it ease off. It's starting to taper down at Amesbury, and it's all done in Haverhill. So we'll send the back edge off to the east before long, and you'll be able to see that dry out a bit. Topsfield, though, you still got another 30 minutes of steady rain before you're going to be able to stand down on that. And then, of course, the special marine warning for folks that are out over the water. And I am well aware, too, that one of the things we can provide that you'll never see on television is updates for folks who are out of the water. So that's partly, too, why I've been updating you on these special marine warnings and continue to give you updates on them. So this special marine warning is going to be up till 3:15. Storms are moving to the east at 35 miles per hour. You can see that wind gust of 49 knots, so that gets you up around 58 miles an hour, 55 miles an hour. And certainly that's enough to be concerning for anyone who's out there. But the biggest thing, too, is the fact that you get the seas that kick up inside of these wind gusts, right? That and the cloud to ground lightning. Those are the two big concerns that you have when you're out on the water. So that's why I've been keeping a close eye on this as it's been coming by. I'll click off of it, but you can see that should extend almost down to P-Town. P-Town has been in the south end of the special marine warning. Let me see if I can swing that loop out to an hour and play that through and see how it looks in terms of the expansion south toward P-Town. It's going to have some doing, I think, to get down to P-Town. You see, it's been expanding south successfully because of the fact that we've been looking at an inflow of warm and moist air. But just consider, if you would, the fact that once it gets over the water, you've actually got an inflow that's more cool air that comes in over Cape Cod Bay. So that may stop the southward expansion. So we'll certainly keep an eye on you at Provincetown, but it wouldn't shock me if you just get quite a show to the north. You should see the cloud to ground lightning out over the water to the north of you right now anyway, as the storm continues to move out over the waters and out over Stellwagen. Bigger picture, too, just so you know, Western Connecticut, we're not forgetting about you because you are one of the areas that we highlighted as being a spot that may see some of the action. Southeast New York, eastern Pennsylvania, and northern Jersey. Here comes the real disturbance that's going to drive that out of Williamsport. So there's still hours to go before the worst of it would arrive to southeastern New York and even Connecticut. We talked earlier about the chance that there may be some flash flooding in Connecticut, but not till this evening. And the reason for that is because I think what we're looking at is going to end up being storms that all kind of coalesce and come together. I think you're going to have this area that's coming out of northern PA. When it swings through northern New Jersey, southeast New York City, it's probably going to take the broken line of downpours that exists now, kind of start to fill them in as it approaches, develop a bit of an S shape as it comes east, and it's going to be under the apex to that S where you'd find the greatest chance for some isolated flash flooding. So that may be Newburgh, New City, White Plains, Danbury, Waterbury, Naugatuck. We'll see how it evolves. It just wouldn't surprise me if it turns out that way. All right, so bigger picture now. You can see a lot of the storms starting to clear off the coast. We've still been watching the South Shore. You're still watching right now, too, what is the storms that are coming through Maine. But I think as I get ready to kind of stand down a little bit here from this ongoing live stream, I'll come back out on camera with you. And again, I would invite you to fire away in the chat with us here if you're watching on a live stream. If you're watching on the app, then you were directed through the live stream tab at the bottom on the homepage, of the app. You were directed to livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. Anytime we live stream, you're going to see it there. We actually live stream to Twitch, and through the magic of Restream, we also live stream to YouTube. So some of you are watching us on YouTube. And we also live stream to X. And then Facebook, we at this point don't live stream to that, but we could drive you right back to livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. So again, we'll continue to watch these storms over the course of the afternoon. If there's anything real big like we had happen with the Boston metro area where you got this explosion of the storms at the last minute, and we knew there was going to be some damage and some hail, we'll come back up with you. I think for the most part, a lot of these warnings that are up, you'll be able to follow with our app. If you haven't done it yet, in the app, when you set your location, after you save the location, there's 3 dots that are right next to it. You click those 3 dots. You do pinpoint. You can pinch and zoom. You can actually set your exact location. So it's like right in your yard, or if it's for your kid at camp, it's like right at the summer camp as opposed to being on another side of town. You've seen that today, right, with these storms. We saw that North Scituate got hit. Scituate proper, it was much later. We saw that there were parts of Brockton that got hit Other parts of Brockton, it was later before it moved in. It's that type of thing that if you pinpoint the location, you'll be able to get the lightning warnings, the precipitation warnings before the storm arrives for your spot. All right, folks, thanks very much. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your support. We'll see how long it takes me to figure out how to turn off the live stream, and we will keep you posted if anything else pops up. See how long it takes. Good luck, Matt. Thanks, everybody.